A new staffing model called the Next Education Workforce aims to address the persistent shortage of teachers. The program focuses on moving beyond the traditional model of having one teacher in one classroom and taking more of a team approach. To learn more, we welcome Carol Basile. She's Dean at ASU's Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. Dean, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay, Next Education Workforce. Give me a better definition.
Well, Next Education Workforce is where we are really trying to dismantle the one teacher, one classroom model and start to think about the organization of schools. And so we talk about the egg crate model of schooling, right? And kids in boxes with one teacher and 25 kids, and that job is no longer, in my view, humanly possible. So how do we then start to think about multiple classrooms of kids, right? Instead of saying, here's your 25 and your 25 and your 25 and good luck, how do we say, here's a group of kids, right? 75 kids, 100 kids. Here is your group of teachers. And how do they work together as a team with a shared roster of students, shared space, starting to group, to regroup, to think about the needs of the students and work to make sure that kids are getting who they need when they need it.
How would that work? Because those of us of a certain age remember team teaching, which was kind of in vogue for a while. Right. What happened to team teaching?
Well, I think a lot of accountability happened to team teaching. Right? So that was a thing, right? In the 60s and 70s, we saw that happen. I think the other thing that happened was that people were never prepared to work on teams. And I think we're now at a point where we've seen fewer people coming into the profession. We're seeing more people leaving. It's time to do something to really redefine who the teacher is, what their role is, making sure they have the right roles, the right responsibilities.
How big an issue is teacher retention right now? And we'll stick with Arizona, but nationally as well.
It's huge. So I think, one of the problems is that we've talked about retention like we think people are going to stay in jobs for 10 or 20 years. And I don't think, first of all, that's going to happen. But we do want them to stay longer. But we also want to create more stable learning environments. If my granddaughter, who's 7 years old, is in a classroom and she has a second grade teacher who's fantastic, but if that teacher leaves, there's nobody who knows that child as that child advances. When that child has a team, now we've created a more stable working condition for teachers because they're happier working in teams, which we've seen, and we've got kids who also have a more stable learning environment.
Let's take that child. She gets to school, she sits down at her desk. What happens with this new model?
So lots of things happen. So now schedules are changing. They're less lockstep in terms of kids sitting in rows of desks or even in small groups with one teacher. They're moving around. The teachers are trying to figure out how long does a kid who needs extra time in math get time in math? How do they get extra time in reading? How do they group? How do they regroup? And so now they're able to move. If you have a behavior issue in a classroom, a teacher can take that child out and the other teachers now fill in and make sure that learning continues to happen.
Is there a problem possibly in that this teacher's really good, this teacher's okay, this teacher's not the best, this teacher's excellent, and you get kind of, the team becomes a different, she's being bombarded by different things, in other words. Is that a possibility?
Well, so actually, that's exactly what's happening today, right? So when you think about a grade level or cross grade level, whatever that is, of 4 teachers in an elementary school, or it could be a high school or middle school, we're doing this K-12. One teacher is going to be, maybe a 12-year teacher who's nationally board certified. Another teacher is going to be somebody who was a former engineer who came back, who loves teaching math and science, but not so great at teaching reading. Another one's coming out of our program, first-year teacher. Another one's on emergency certificate. So today, we're seeing where all of these teachers have different levels of expertise. And the question is, which one do you want for your kid? Well, you want all of them,
right.
But you also want all of them to have different layers and levels of responsibility so that they're working together as a team and we're really using the strengths of every individual on that team.
I see. Interesting. You testified about this at a congressional hearing, correct?
I did.
What did you say?
Well, I said that right now we have an education system that is built on average. An average is a statistical anomaly. And that what is real is variance. So teachers are not all going to be the same. We talk about the widget teacher. We prepare them all the same way. We expect them to all walk out and be exactly the same, and they're not. Variance. And our children also, we have to think about variance. And so the question then becomes, how do we start to build a system for variance, not for average? And we need kids who now can work, together, but also teams of teachers who are supporting those kids in different ways.
Training those teachers to be more team players, does that make for a difference there at the Fulton College?
Absolutely. So we are doing lots of things right now to be more nimble, more flexible, more different kinds of modalities to make sure that our teachers that we are preparing are walking out knowing how to work on teams. They've had experience working on teams. We need more schools that are moving towards team-based. We're now working with 150 schools across about 13 states right now. So it's moving quickly. We've had over 900 people visit Arizona over the last 2 years to come see what these models look like. So the more we can build schools that are moving towards team-based models, the more we can prepare our teacher candidates to work in these models, the better we are, and the better we can start to change what preparation looks like.
Last question here. Is there a barrier to this innovation, and if so, what is it?
Today, the barrier is that all of us went to school in a one teacher, one classroom model, right? And so the biggest barrier is people having a vision for what this could look like and really changing the systems of education.
But what about teachers? Do they see themselves as standing in front of a classroom, same kids, same class? Does there need to be a change there, a change of mindset there?
Yeah, 100%, right? But there are teachers, right, and schools and school leaders that see this and that are moving this direction. And once they're in it, they stay.
Yeah, well, that's what we need, because we're teacher retention issue, as you mentioned, it's a big deal out there.
Yeah,
and Arizona's
absolutely.
been suffering for it, seems like forever. Carol Basile, again, Dean ASU Fulton Teachers College. Good conversation. Good to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it.